Every 4 years, we're told that the upcoming election is the most important of our lifetime. But those who understand the system might argue otherwise, correctly pointing out that it's actually every 2 years that matters just as much, if not more. We're all obsessed with the president. But what if I told you we're focused on the wrong branch of government? The real power is held by Congress. The Founding Fathers feared the rise of a king, which is why the Constitution granted Congress significant, immutable power. Yet while we focus on the White House, whose influence has grown in recent years, lobbyists and special interests have been quietly shaping Congress behind the scenes, both exploiting and weakening it. The truth is that Congress has been taken over by special interest and lobbies. They no longer function for the people, have evolved into a partisan institution except for funding wars. The system is broken, or some may argue that it was designed like this. They spend the majority of their time fundraising from rich donors, because their job security depends on special interests, not their constituents. Gerrymandering has resulted in compromise becoming a dirty word, creating partisan gridlock. Working with the other side to pass a budget or fix infrastructure is seen as a betrayal that will get you primaried. It's better for their career to block the other side and score political points on cable news than to actually govern. The lobbyist pipeline has created the revolving door. Those who write legislation for the special interest, then leave the government with multi-million-dollar lobbying jobs to influence the legislation. They can't pass budgets on time, so resort to last-minute omnibus bills that are thousands of pages long. Nobody reads them, so they are stuffed with pet projects for the donors, not you. Insider trading has made many of them rich. Members of Congress are exempt from insider trading laws. They can legally trade stocks based on non-public information they learn in confidential meetings. We the people would go to jail for this. Sites like Quiver Quantitative actually help you track people like Nancy Pelosi and her successful portfolio. This doesn't include their multi-million-dollar book deals and huge speaking fees. Members of Congress and their staff are required to get their insurance through the ACA, Obamacare exchanges. However, they receive a special subsidy from the government that covers roughly 75% of their premium costs. Yet they vote to repeal or weaken the ACA for ordinary people. They also have access to top-notch on-site medical care at the Capitol, essentially a private clinic. They have a legendary federal pension plan that is far more generous than most Americans will ever see. They dine at the best restaurants on our dime and travel on their fact-finding missions, often lavish trips to desirable locations, paid by the taxpayer or by non-profit groups linked to lobbies. Yet we are led to believe there is no money to help Americans with the huge social issues such as infrastructure, homelessness, college debt, healthcare, but there is never any discussion about lack of money for wars. They even find emergency funding in billions to prolong these wars. Where there's a will, there's a way. But in Washington, the will has been hijacked. Our institutions now breed a different kind of will, a will for wealth, for power, for self-preservation. They found their way to enrich themselves and lost their way to serve the public. They don't believe in the America and the American people anymore. Some believe the US is in the late-stage capitalism, and their actions indicate state cannibalism, where they enrich themselves from the resources and connections before it all comes crashing down. Don't be mistaken. They will even come for your Social Security in the coming years, and at this point, it wouldn't be surprising to be a bipartisan action. Ask yourself one question. What has my party done to make life better for me and my fellow Americans in the 21st century? What promises did they keep? Our nation's real challenge is other emerging economies. To win, we need leaders who build bridges at home to give us a collective advantage. Instead, we get a cynical divide and conquer tactic, throwing cultural red meat to the crowd to keep us divided, while the real pillaging happens elsewhere. So what are we going to do about it? Let's start with an example of a recent successful takeover. In recent history, the Tea Party recognized that the Constitution grants Congress the most authority, the power to make laws, control spending, override vetoes, conduct oversight and investigations, impeach and remove officials, approve or reject appointments, and even amend the Constitution. The Congress controls money, laws, war, and impeachment. The President enforces laws, but the Congress makes them. A fully empowered Congress weakens presidential overreach. The Tea Party understood this. Instead of just protesting, they ran candidates, took over primaries, and forced Congress to obey them. And it worked. If the Tea Party could reshape the Republican Party, why haven't progressives done the same with Democrats? The answer lies in structural barriers and how we organize. The Tea Party didn't emerge in a vacuum. Its rise was fueled by public outrage in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, though that outrage was carefully redirected. After the 2008 financial crisis, Americans were angry. But instead of blaming the banks that got trillions in bailouts, they turned against government spending, thanks to one viral moment. Rick Santelli, a financial commentator, went on an angry rant against helping homeowners. What he didn't say was that his own industry, Wall Street, was getting a $700 billion bailout by the same government he criticized for now trying to bail out the people. That did not include the $7.7 trillion in short-term loans by the Fed to the banks to stabilize the financial system. Instead of targeting Wall Street, the Tea Party followed the money. Koch-backed funding steered its agenda. The Tea Party branded itself as a grassroots rebellion, but behind the scenes, billionaires and corporations were fueling it. With corporate backing and media amplification, the Tea Party turned its ideological momentum into electoral success. What was the outcome of this? The Tea Party took over Congress in 2010 with a landslide victory, winning 63 seats in the House of Representatives. Even though they didn't win the Senate, they gained 6 more seats. Fox News amplified their message. Corporate-funded think tanks such as the Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, Americans for Prosperity and Freedom Works wrote policies that the Tea Party politicians pushed. They even defeated establishment Republicans, setting the stage for a more ideologically pure GOP that aligned itself with the Tea Party's conservative anti-tax platform. They pushed for tax cuts, deregulation, and blocking government aid. These mostly helped corporations and not the regular Americans. They forced the government to shut down and blocked reforms but never went after Wall Street. Despite their rhetoric against government overreach, the Tea Party's policies often benefited the very elites responsible for the crisis. And their influence didn't fade, it evolved. How many bankers do you know that paid a price for the financial crisis? None, only some small-time players who took advantage of the situation. The Tea Party was effective because they focused on Congress, not the presidency. They ran candidates, won elections, and controlled policy. If real change is going to happen today, the focus needs to be on Congress again. But we need to be vigilant as movements will get hijacked by the corporate money. They have deep roots within the system, and like the Tea Party, we need to push the establishment Democrats out. We need to find worthy candidates, run them and vote them in, taking back the Congress. But there must be clear objectives we must demand, and be as persistent as the Tea Party for our non-negotiables. What is the true project of our generation? It's more than just winning an election. It's about building a society that works. It's an America where your health care is guaranteed, and a world-class education doesn't come with a lifetime of debt. It's a country with a home for everyone, starting with a housing-first approach to end homelessness. It's a national mission to rebuild, with a hybrid green energy grid, 21st-century roads and bridges, and a new civilian labor corps dedicated to public service, not profit. And fundamentally, it's about restoring a government of, by, and for the people. That means elections we can believe in. It means a foreign policy that protects Americans, not endless wars based on lies. And it means drawing a hard line right now to stop the surveillance state from eroding our freedoms. This is the defining task of our time. It is the real work that has been neglected, while we've been manipulated into fighting amongst ourselves over cultural issues. A distraction carefully designed to keep us from uniting around a common future. Even though the Tea Party has largely faded from the spotlight, their influence is still very much alive in the American politics. Their influence is what is pushing for a smaller but more powerful government and tax cuts for the rich. The Tea Party's demand for ideological purity and fiscal conservatism pushed the GOP further right, creating a more hardline conservative platform. Moderate Republicans were sidelined or pushed out, leaving more Trump-friendly voices to dominate. Tea Party organizations like Freedom Works and Americans for Prosperity continued to fund conservative candidates, but they no longer focused on Tea Party-specific platforms. The Tea Party as a standalone movement has dissolved because it has merged with the broader Republican Party and was absorbed into Trump's rise to power. Key figures in the Tea Party such as Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Marco Rubio became prominent in the national politics. We need our own prominent voices to fight for us, but the Democratic Party lacks such candidates. Those like Katie Porter, Zoran Mamdani, and Graham Plattner are largely sidelined. Even with them, we have to hold their feet to the fire, or the system will devour them. This is our central challenge. After a devastating loss, Bernie Sanders and AOC are currently allowed to speak for the party, but their track record has shown that they will later present us with the same old Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders was betrayed by the party in 2020 because top donors like Haim Saban said, "Anybody but Bernie. I don't want to say this, but even Trump." This is the frustrating paradox of modern progressive politics. Bernie Sanders, who spoke so powerfully about a political revolution, ultimately chose to toe the party line, silencing his own message about systemic corruption. And in a similar move, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, whose landmark Green New Deal mirrors the ambitious vision the Green Party has championed for decades, turned her fire not on the conservatives blocking climate action, but on the very Greens who share her aspirations. She attacked not their policies, but their mere existence as a threat to Democratic Party dominance. It seems the real threat isn't to the planet, but to the two-party system itself. Back in 2017, AOC was discovered by the political establishment. The progressive group Brand New Congress, founded by former Sanders staffers, scoured the country for fresh voices. They vetted hundreds of potential candidates from working-class backgrounds. Their top pick? A 27-year-old bartender from the Bronx. This narrative of the lone waitress beating the system all by herself is a historical fiction. It erases the central role of the Sanders-aligned political organization that handpicked her from hundreds of candidates. There is nothing wrong with that. It even demonstrates the importance of organization to align with the objective. To be clear, her talent, intelligence, and drive are real. But that's precisely the problem. She had the potential to be a truly independent force, yet she so often channels her immense power not toward challenging the party structure, but toward bending to its will. It's the convenient lie we tell ourselves. She's playing the game to win. But ask yourself, at what point does playing the game become losing? If you won't take a stand when the corruption is palpable, what are you saving your power for? The system doesn't get less corrupt the higher you climb. It demands more compromises. Without a forceful stand now, the objectives themselves become corrupted.
Many wealthy donors, even those who socially liberal, believe Trump's policies, such as deregulation and tax cuts, were better for their personal wealth and the stock market than Sanders' proposals for wealth taxes, breaking up big banks, and expanding social programs. The corporate media tends to marginalize progressive voices that challenge the corporate power and the status quo. And that is why it is imperative that we listen to the independent media that is not beholden to any power. Many of us have lost faith in the current Democratic Party and are seeking a viable third party. If that path is possible, we should pursue it, but we must recognize that either path will require a generational shift. That's why it's important to test our power in the short term. Start small and see if we can repair it, or preferably rebuild the old clunky machine to take us to the next step. It is probably the faster path than a new party, but it's been deeply co-opted by the elites.
Yes, it's a lemon, and without a complete flush and rebuild, it may never run perfectly. But it can still get us somewhere and teach us something. A third party will probably be more effective, but we can do this simultaneously, which would warn those in power that we are not playing anymore. The purpose of the third party is not to win in the short term. It is about leverage, to instill fear of a looming party election loss. If you want change, stop obsessing over the next president. Instead, make the most of the limited time and resources at your disposal. Here are a few ways to be more effective. Track your representatives, call them, attend town hall meetings, public forums where constituents can ask questions. Engage on social media with them, as they are increasingly active on these platforms. Tag them on relevant posts, use hashtags related to the issue. Join or create a campaign. Engage with them on the comments without offending them, and if you can, create shareable content that may go viral. Call them to speak or leave a voicemail. Be clear, ask for a follow-up and keep records of your calls. If needed, escalate by asking for legislative aid or supervisor's attention. Organize or participate in a petition on sites like change.org or Care2. These petitions can be delivered to your representative to show broad constituent support for a cause partner with local organizations that can amplify your message and align with your goals. If your state supports a citizen-initiated ballot, start or participate in one. Meet with legislative aides. While it is difficult to meet with the representatives, their aides often handle day-to-day operations and are important gatekeepers and can be much more effective than a call or email. Be polite but firm about their support on an action. History has shown that power doesn't shift by itself, it moves when people organize. If we want real change, we must build movements that focus on congressional power, just as the Tea Party did. Trump floods the zone every hour and every day. We must do the same thing. Here's how we start. We take and build the Congress we want. No more keeping the status quo. They are not working for us anymore. They work for the lobbyists. We're not their constituents. We're just their voting vessels to get what their donors paid for. If we don't track them, if we don't hold them accountable, they'll keep running wild. So it's time to step up and build real power. Because Congress works for us, and as some recent town hall meetings have shown, only if we make them.
guys used to have balls. You need to get your balls back.